So let's get started. This is the ACCG Workers' Compensation Program overall loss analysis for 2014 and 2016. My name is Dan Beck. I'm the director of LGRMS. You can see my email below. If you have any questions or comments that you want to send me, definitely do not hesitate to send me those via email or pick up the phone and give me a call. We're here to provide service and support and leadership for our members, and we want you guys are very, very valuable to us, and we want to provide you with all the resources that we can. Why are we here? I'm sure that's a question many of you have. And really, again, as I said in the previous, we're here to provide an overview of loss trends. But really, ultimately, we're here to identify the trends in order to predict future losses. That's the rationale behind doing that. And once we've identified those trends, we want to develop processes and to control those predicted losses. You hopefully will be able to see your own statistical information, and if you haven't seen that, we can send it to you. That gives you a really good tale of what's going on in your location. But the problem is, depending on the size of your organization, the smaller your organization, the less statistically significant it's going to be. So what this will do is provide you a much wider view of people with like risks. So most of you have sheriff's offices and jails and public works and so on, all these different departments. Most of them come with the same risks, and you'll be able to, you combine the risk data you have from your own individual membership and from the pool, you'll best be able to identify trends and then predict losses and then ultimately try and control those. And that's what it's all about. This is workers' compensation claim costs by department. And as you can see here from the slide, we have had from 2014 to 2016 9,364.46 claims, almost $60 million in claims in this period of time. Again, this is going to develop. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but within that, that's total incurred. Within the departments, law enforcement, that is sheriffs and jails and police account for about 40% of those claims and about 39% of the total incurred costs. That's about $24 million over those 3-year period. Fire and EMS account for about 21% of claims and 19% of total incurred costs, or about $12 million in that same 3-year period. Roads and public works, about 14% of the number of claims and 21% of the costs at about $13 million. And I have this sorted by different ways. And based on your membership, you might identify different things. You might put everything in roads. You might have a department called public works. You might have departments that are called building maintenance or fleet maintenance, or maybe they go in the roads and public works. You can see some of those below, but those are the 3 big groups. And if you add law enforcement, fire, EMS, and roads and public works together, you have about 76% of claims and 79% of total incurred. So what we want to do in loss analysis is really whittle things down so we can focus, rather than trying to solve everyone's problems, we can really focus in on departments to help solve their issues where we have the biggest opportunity. And those are the departments based on work comp and ACCG I think have the biggest opportunity. Any questions or comments thus far? We'll move on. If you can look at this work comp claims cost by year, you can see that claims cost and claims numbers don't vary a whole lot. Again, from 39% in 2014 to 28% in 2016 within total incurred. I would give a caveat to those particular numbers in that there are development factors within all workers' compensation claims numbers. So your first year's numbers will normally develop 2 to 3 times what they are at the initial year. So that $16 million or $17 million in 2016 will more than likely develop from a total incurred to somewhere around 34 million, maybe even higher than that based on the development factors. It's likely to do that. And within the number of claims, again, they're closer. There's not as much developed in the number of claims, but there is still a little bit of development. So year on year, I think we're about on pace what we've done previously. For those that you don't know, total incurred is an insurance term that means paid plus reserves. So whatever you pay from a medical perspective or indemnity, time off, settlements, and legal fees, those are considered paid fees. And then the adjuster will estimate what future costs are going to be. So let's say that somebody has a surgery that's going to be in 6 months. They will estimate what that surgery costs. They'll estimate what they're going to have to pay the employee. They'll estimate what they're going to have to pay the attorneys, and they'll put something out that's reserved. And that's the best guess based on the adjuster of what they claim is ultimately going to cost. Again, in regards to development factors, sometimes you don't see things. People that have a sore arm or a strain in their arm go through some basic physical therapy. Within 2 years, they might need surgery on that, so that will develop, and that's why you have development costs that are so much. The next slide really goes on claims costs per year by year of service. So I went through the claims data and looked at what kind of tenure of employee, how does that impact the claims within ACCG's insurance pool. So as you can see, those in the yellow, that's the first 5 years of service. So we have less than 1 year, 1 year, 2 year. So within 5 years of service, that first 5 years of service, we have 54% of claims and 54% of total incurred and 52% of claims. So within that 5-year period of that first 5 years, that's when people are most likely to have incidents and most likely to have high workers' compensation costs. You go to the next 5 years or next 4 years, numbers 6 through 9, that's about 20% of cost, 18%. Again, you go to the next 10 years, or 10 through 19, you have 18% of cost, 22% of claims dollars. We need to focus on those new employees. Within that first 5 years, we need to make sure they're well trained. We need to make sure we're hiring good employees. That's something that we need to focus on. So just a kind of an aside. Questions, comments from that particular slide? No questions? I'm going to continue on then. Within the sheriff's office by cause, as you can see, motor vehicle incidents occur. They have about 34% of total incurred dollars at almost $6 million, and again, that's going to develop over a 3-year period of time. Altercations is next, slips and falls, shootings, training, ergonomics, and non-category. Let's talk about training a little bit before I go on to the others. Training is related to incidents while training, so whether they're doing defensive tactics or running or physical or PT, we're spending about $1 million in total incurred regarding training-related incidents. Non-category incidents are incidents don't necessarily fit into a category, and those would be struck by or caught between or lacerations. But if you look at those top causes of incidents, motor vehicle incidents, altercations and shootings, and incidents while training account for about 66% of the total incurred of the sheriff's office losses, workers' compensation losses. So that's where we would focus. That's where we're focusing with an LGRMS, and that's where I suggest that you as a member focus. Above that, I have a bullet point that says leadership, action planning, policy, training, and accountability. So if you're going to your sheriff or leadership within your sheriff's office or police department with these high losses, ultimately speaking, it's like managing everything else. In order to be effective, you have to have a very strong leadership. They have to be very aware of where their losses. They have to be committed to resolving those losses, and they have to have a plan, an action plan to address those. And the planning comes through establishing a policy, providing training, and then ultimately holding employees accountable. Now that's a theme that's going to run through every slide I have here, but ultimately speaking, it is very, very true. And unless you have that, you're not going to have long-term sustainable risk reduction. This is what we are focusing on with an LGRMS. And again, if you have opportunities within your sheriff's office, these are things that we can help you with, or law enforcement. So we are selecting opportunity and targeted members, people that have high rates of incident, people that have high costs within particular departments, and we're working with them to develop action planning, problem-solving teams. Now, we can come in and we can say, you need to do this, this, and this. But when we do that, that is our problem and our solution. What we're attempting to do is develop individuals within these particular organizations to be able to identify these issues and develop controls that address those issues. So that's really the process. So if you're interested in that, definitely contact myself. Definitely contact one of your field representatives, and we can do that if you have again, you're an opportunity or targeted member. We're looking for people to volunteer in this particular process. We have focused audit protocols. We really, because motor vehicles and use of force are two big issues, altercations, we have audit protocols that really focus in on those issues, looking at policies, looking at training, looking at other issues related to leadership. And we can provide feedback and measure improvement in regards to those things. Driver training. Again, we have 3 driving simulators. We've had those for about 13 years. We're enhancing that with more of a defensive driving focus. When we look at motor vehicle accidents, specifically across the board, but specifically within law enforcement, most of those are related to distracted driving. So we are focusing on our simulation training rather than EVOC. We're really focusing on distracted driver training and how they can use techniques to avoid those particular type of incidents. We have a backing train the trainer course we're going to be rolling out. So it's a hands-on course. We'll come and train your department how to do that. Again, we can do our simulator, our EVOC, and pursuit training. We have a variety of different training methods based on what your need is within your particular department or office. Again, de-escalation training with simulator. We're purchasing a simulator and developing a de-escalation training. Again, similar to the train-the-trainer process, we'll leave it at your particular location, and your organization can provide that training to individuals with the use of this simulator. You saw that excessive force and other things, altercations, are low in regards to cost, but we anticipate that in the future that those will probably increase based on the cultural climate we have across the country. Again, other training we can provide, below 100, high-risk critical tasks, safety officer training. Again, we've said that a lot of our incidents, 6% of the total incurred, are occurring during training. And the safety officer concept provides training to your office department on how they can help control those incidents while training. Questions or comments regarding that particular slide? Anybody have anything? We'll move on. EMS, again, I divided EMS and fire here, but you can see that lifting patients, slips and falls, and exiting and entering motor vehicles are our biggest biggest cause of incidents. If you add those together, you get about 72% of total incurred for those pieces. Again, just getting in and out of motor vehicles accounts for about 13% of the total incurred, almost $600,000 within EMS. We see that a lot. Lifting patients is another big thing. We have situations where we have our EMS folks required to lift a person that might be 500 pounds plus that has fallen between the bed and the wall or between the toilet and the bathtub. It's a very awkward position. It's excessive forces. How do we do that and do it well? Again, something that your EMS folks should be focusing on. Fire department claims by cause. Again, kind of the same distribution. We see a lot of claims during training, about 20% of fire. So that's easily controllable, and we'll talk about that safety officer concept also with them. The next line item is equipment failure. That was really from 3 claims. We're not going to talk about that much. That was an anomaly. But if you have equipment, this was a ladder truck in one of our members that failed and caused 3 individuals to fall at the same time. We'll talk about that later. Ergo is ergonomics. Again, lifting, pushing, pulling. Slips and falls next. Fighting fires. So individuals fighting fires, that's from fire exposure, maybe some other exposures, falling during a fire. Those were only $705,000 of the firefighter losses. Most of those are from other things. And then you go all the way down, you get exposure, and then lifting patients. So you get about $322,000 from lifting patients. Again, almost $2 million from those, from fire and EMS in regards to that. You take all those together, and you're looking at almost 50% of total incurred. So LGRMS, what we can do with fire and EMS, do the same thing with the problem solving. Be happy to come out and train your fire and EMS groups on how they can solve their own problems, and they can identify trends. They can put controls in place to resolve those things. We also do driver training for the EMS group, similar to what we do for the law enforcement folks. And then we have other training. We have a fit responder pilot, and this is, again, we're doing that this year. We've done it in one member. We're going to hopefully do this in another member, where we have a physical therapist that specializes in EMS. He's a former paramedic that trains people, one, how to avoid incidents, so lifting procedures and processes, how to lift that 500-pound person in an awkward posture and position so it doesn't put strain on your muscles and back. And then also what to do in case you are injured, ways to avoid further injury, or ways to inform severity of injury. We have training on slips and falls and ergonomics, basic ergonomics, and then, of course, the safety officer training. As you saw, the fire departments, one of their biggest causes of incidents is during training. So having a safety officer there to monitor that training to ensure employees are not putting themselves at risk during that training is an important step, and we can assist you with that. Roads, public works by cause, as you can see this, ergonomics at almost $3 million. Tree work, we've had a lot of incidents related to tree work. So cutting limbs, removing limbs from streets, cutting down trees, about $2 million over that 3-year period. Slips and falls, entering, exiting motor vehicles, again, another big issue. A lot of this is related to people jumping off of trucks, jumping off of flatbeds, and other things. Again, we're looking at almost $1.3 million in total incurred. That will probably develop close to $3 million within that 3 years. Again, people getting struck by motor vehicles, and then motor vehicle accidents as a whole. So if you take those into consideration, you're looking at about 80%, almost 70% of total incurred cost. Again, we have a lot of services for roads and public works. We can do the opportunity targeted member problem solving process. We have a National Safety Council DDC driving course we can provide to them. We have the Backer Train the Trainer course we can provide. We have a variety of other training courses, whether it's for slips and falls, ergonomics. We specifically developed last year a video package training for tree work. So it talks about using a chainsaw. It talks about in a bucket truck. It talks about a lot of the ergonomic related issues that we have, and that's very important, and we can send that out to you based on your request. We're in the process of developing a heavy equipment module similarly, so that if you have employees that are driving heavy equipment and they don't really have any training, we'll be able to provide them with a video-based training that will help you out in regards to that. And then exiting and entering motor vehicles. We haven't developed this training yet, but we're in the process of looking at it. If you have any thoughts, it's as simple as, one, getting in and out of just your regular sedan, or hopping in on and off trucks, or hopping on and off an elevated truck. We're seeing a lot of incidents related to those things, and we should be able to control those particular incidents. So in conclusion, we want you to review your losses. Review the pool's losses. Again, review what we talked about there. Put those together. Again, if you have a small organization, or even if you have a large organization, just because you have a tremendous amount of total incurred somewhere, or a large number of frequency of claims somewhere, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where you need to focus. You need to be able to predict, say, hey, we haven't controlled this yet, more than likely something's going to happen. Identify predictable loss trends that you'll have the ability to impact. So if you won't have any ability to impact, then I wouldn't focus on it. I'd focus on something else. I'd focus on something that you're going to be able to have some impact with the resources that you have. Leadership, leadership, leadership. The key to sustainable long-term risk reduction is getting your leaders engaged. So making sure those high frequency, high severity departments know that they have those losses, ensuring that they own those particular losses, and that they're committed through an action plan to reduce those losses. It's easy as a leader to say, yeah, I know it's there, we're committed, we're driving safely. But if they don't have an action plan that includes developing programs and policies, providing training to their employees, and ultimately holding people accountable, you're not going to see those long-term reductions in your process and in your risks. And accountability is one of the most difficult things to put out there. But if you don't hold people accountable, people don't feel those programs and or policies are important to you. So I'm going to open this up to questions. Please stand by. We're just going to talk to a few folks, and I'm going to see if anybody has anything to say. Hold on. Let's see if I can pick some other people. Linda Woodson, are you out there? Linda Woodson.
Yes.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, were you able to hear me clearly?
Yes.
Do you have any questions or comments about the webinar thus far?
How will we be able to get the information on providing the training?
If you know your field rep, you can request it from them. If you don't know your field rep, you can send me an email, and I'll shoot you in the right direction.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Great question, Linda.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can find one other person out there. If you have a question, more than likely everybody has that same question. Risa Fortner. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Risa Fortner, are you out there?
Hi. Can you hear me?
You have a question? Were you able to hear the webinar?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir? Okay. Thank you so much. One more. I'm going to talk to Stephanie Walker. Stephanie Walker, are you out there?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
The question that was asked earlier about how we go about getting training, get someone to come out and train, and that was one of my questions. So.
Good, good, very good. I got another question from somebody. I'm going to look at it real quick here. I'm going to keep you on the line. You might be able to help answer this one, Stephanie. So I'm going to put you on the spot, so get ready. I need Amanda Hanna says, how can we receive the losses for our county? So, Stephanie, how do you think you can receive the losses for your county?
You got me there, Dan. But
I would, if I were you, I would email me at dbeck@ljerms.com, and I would request those losses from me.
Okay, I was getting ready to say your name.
There you go. It's as easy as that. It's as easy as that. So with that being said, we are at 27 minutes after the hour. I was hoping to get done a little bit quicker, but I think we went through and provided some decent information. If you have any other questions or need any other information, do not hesitate to give me a call or email me. My email is dbeck@lgrms.com. That's dbeck@lgrms.com. My wife constantly gets on me for saying LGRMS very quickly, and you cannot understand the acronym. With that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. I thank you so very, very much. Enjoy the cold weather because it's going to be hot sooner than you think. Put on your snowshoes and just be grateful we're not living in New York. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much.